You've got to say that the stepping down of Joe Biden and the elevation to presidential candidate of Kamala Harris has reinvigorated the Democrats. I mean, really, their bid to hang on to the White House now looks in much better shape. Joining me now from Washington is Sky News senior reporter, and she's doing a magnificent job, Trudy McIntosh. I'll get onto the polls in a second, Trudy. But let's talk about the fallout from the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump 10, 11 days ago, as Secret Service boss Kimberly Cheetle, now she's gone.
Yeah, she's gone. Not really a surprise yesterday after that big hearing. It lasted for more than 5 hours on Capitol Hill. At the end, in a very rare moment of bipartisanship here in Washington, D.C., both the ranking chairman, a Republican, and the top Democrat on that committee saying that she needed to tender her resignation. Her answers yesterday, a form of stonewalling, really, about crucial questions 9 days on from that assassination attempt, including why wasn't the rooftop secure? Basic information you think would be easy to say, things like how many gun casings were found on the roof, unable to get to those answers. So it was clearly untenable for her to go. She's now handed in her resignation, and they're having an acting Secret Service director in what is an incredibly important and tense time here in America. We are still months away from the campaign. We're going to see more of these big campaign rallies, and we need to ensure that they are as safe as possible for not only the candidate, but also those in the crowd, because things can go incredibly wrong here.
Sky suggesting today, out of Washington, I think, that the Secret Service have now said to Donald Trump's camp, look, we don't want you having any more of those outdoor rallies.
And that wouldn't surprise me. The first rally we saw since that one in Butler, Pennsylvania, the other day was at an indoor venue in Michigan. That's easier to secure. It just makes sense from a logistics standpoint. You'd hope that over time they're able to figure out a way to have politicians outdoors again, just because one time there was this massive security lapse. If they can figure out what went wrong and ensure that doesn't happen again, for example, extending the perimeter was one of the big discussions at that congressional hearing yesterday. Why was the perimeter so close, and that building allowed to be outside of the Secret Service perimeter and looked after by local law enforcement? So big lessons need to be learnt from that event.
There's a lot of wild rumours still going around, Trudy, about exactly who did what and how it all unfolded. Are we going to get any more answers to exactly how Donald Trump was put in such a dangerous position?
We will. We've seen the House here in America vote to have this task force. So this was agreed by Democrats and Republicans again. So the task force will look into exactly what happened and the lessons. The FBI, don't forget, is still working on the investigation into the shooter, figuring out the motive. Here we are 10 days later, we still don't know that. And also there's going to be that internal Secret Service investigation. Director Cheetle yesterday at the testimony said it was a 60-day review. A lot of pushback, even from far left Democrats saying, why is it going to take 60 days? It needs to be faster. But as you can see, there's a multitude of these inquiries, and going to continue to learn more in the coming days.
I mentioned the reinvigoration of the Democrats' campaign. Do you agree with that, Trudy?
I think so. You certainly saw that momentum today for Kamala Harris. She was on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, her first presidential rally now that she's the presumptive Democrat nominee. She had more than 3,000 people attend there. You'd think, OK, that's not a huge number. It's the biggest crowd, according to her campaign, of any of these Democrat events we've seen in this presidential cycle. What does that tell you about the enthusiasm that was out there for Joe Biden's campaign? He wasn't getting those sort of crowds. I think some people are going a little too far, though, today. They're trying to compare Kamala Harris's bid in the last 36 hours to that of Barack Obama. In 2008, there was much bigger groundswell for Barack Obama, I'd have to say, back in the day. They can tap into some of that, but she's still got a way to go if that's where they're trying to compare her to.
She's no shrinking violet. I mean, she did climb straight into Donald Trump. She said, look, when I was working as a California prosecutor before she became Attorney General of that state, she said, look, I've seen his type before. And then she goes on to talk about, you know, people attacking women and fraudsters. So she's not going. She's really going to have a crack at him.
No, and that's going to be the key line we're now hearing. As a former prosecutor, they want this contrast to be a prosecutor versus a convicted criminal in Trump. And don't forget, back in the presidential race for the Democrats in 2020, where Kamala Harris went on that stage alongside Joe Biden, both of them just competitors at the time, and she took him head on over that issue of busing. And that was such an infamous moment in her run at the time for the presidency. She doesn't shy away from these sort of moments. I think there's been a tendency to underestimate Kamala Harris, and there's a bit of a caricature that's painted of her, but the first real opportunity we're going to see for that is the head-to-head in that presidential debate. Donald Trump's now saying he wants to have more than one, so it'll be fascinating to see the two of them in the same room and how those competing lines stack up.
You can read, Trudy, a lot into the various polls. There is a couple out since she's been elevated. They've got her slightly in front. What do you make of those numbers?
Yeah, it's always hard to know, isn't it, with polling. The Reuters Ipsos poll out this morning has her nose in front ahead of Trump in the two-way contest. I think interesting when it comes to you add RFK Jr. into that mix, and she goes 4 points ahead of Trump, so outside that margin of error. Other polls, though, showing things are neck and neck in the national race. As we know, though, it's not about the national race. This is a state-by-state proposition, and it comes down to those crucial swing states. When we start to see more of those polls coming in the next week as to where things are at, that's going to be fascinating to see. Has there been a boost for Kamala Harris? If not, this might have proved a difficult gamble, but it seems like for now it's paid off for the Democrats.
Still no endorsement from the Obamas, unless I've missed it. What's that all about, Trudy?
No, I think he has this idea, and he's done it for some time, that he doesn't want to weigh in before there's a final outcome. He wants to come in at the end and prove to be the kind of bringing together a unifying factor. I think at this point, though, now it would be fine to him to come out. There's no one else who's challenging her, is there? We saw the key top Democrats on the Hill today decide to put out their endorsement, that being Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. So we're starting to see even big Democrats come. But as you say, George Clooney's on board. He's a close ally of Barack Obama. He got back on the tent today. Interesting to see if Barack Obama is close behind. OK, just finally, the millions of dollars have continued to roll in. In fact, she's attracting more and more campaign funding than what Joe Biden even did. Yeah, big money coming in that first 36 hours, more than $100 million American dollars going to Kamala Harris. I did note, I just saw the Republicans are trying to put up a bit of a stink about the campaign funds that Joe Biden had already amassed and the fact that they're just going to be lumped over to Kamala Harris. They believe that that's against campaign finance laws. It's going to be a big cash grab, according to the Republicans. So fascinating to see how that plays out. The Kamala Harris campaign is already downplaying that, saying this is all above board. She was the vice president. He's handing the money over. He's endorsed her, but money is such a big thing in American politics, and no wonder they're already squabbling over that big pocket of money.
And of course, we'll hear from President Biden tomorrow, as I understand it.
Yeah, we will. Tomorrow night is the big primetime address here in America, his first opportunity to speak to the American people and, in his own words, lay out why he's not going to run again for president. We know we saw that written statement saying it's a good thing for the country and his party, but I'm fascinated to hear how he justifies it in his own words, because we know for so long he dug in and did not believe his Democrat colleagues when they say to him that he can't win this race. That's where he's landed now. So interesting to see how he frames it. But also, this is a legacy speech for Joe Biden. He's been in politics more than 50 years, and this man now, this could be the biggest speech of his entire career, his moment to define how he wants to be viewed by the American people. There's a lot of love for him in Democrat ranks after he did a pretty hard thing in politics, which is ending your own career for the good of the party. Not many people do that. Joe Biden has done it now after a fair bit of pressure, I'd have to say, but fascinating to see how that goes and if there's any missteps or misspeaks like we've been seeing in recent weeks.
Trudy McIntosh, great work as usual. I'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Steve.